Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to All Ball with C&E. This week, unfortunately, will have to be a solo episode because Cameron has had a lot of stuff going on this week. So he hasn't been able to record, and we tried doing it today, but yeah, he had some other stuff going on today. So you're just going to get E today, but we got to get this out for y'all because, you know, Champ Week is today, literally today. The biggest games of the year are today. So we got to get this banger out for y'all. All right. So to start, we're going to go into the first big game of the day that I want to talk about is UGA versus Texas. As you can see on screen right here. This one is very interesting to me because these two teams, they played already. And I'm not going to lie. Georgia, they went into Texas Stadium. I don't know what it's called. And they, honest to God, I swear, they literally just dominated. I've never seen a defensive line dominate the line of scrimmage like that in a long time, if ever. Jalen Walker had probably one of the greatest games of his life. I mean, it's just absolutely insane what that game was. And I can't even describe the dominance. And then everyone was saying during the game, you got to put Arch in. But the thing is, during that game, Georgia literally dominated the line of scrimmage so much that you couldn't even switch switching quarterbacks would have done nothing because no matter who you put in at quarterback during that game, they wouldn't have had time in the pocket, which it was just absolutely crazy. And I know if C were here, he would tell you the same thing. And obviously what people also know from that game is when there was the questionable pass interference call, and then there was a delay because the fans started throwing water bottles on it, and then they switched the call, but that doesn't even matter. But that game specifically, this at least gives us something to look at, right? It gives us something to look at. Georgia was so dominant, but also Carson Beck threw 3 interceptions that game, I'm pretty sure. It was either 2 or 3 interceptions. This is when Carson Beck was on his really, really bad streak of quarterback play. But since then, or the week after or something like that, he hasn't played awful. Carson Beck has not played awful. Actually, he's played pretty good, to be quite honest with you. Carson Beck going into this game has around 3,400 yards, 28 passing touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. This guy has kind of flipped the script. This guy was throwing 2 to 3 interceptions every single week. And he literally now, it's almost like he doesn't throw interceptions. The play I want to highlight from when I really saw a flip switch into Carson Beck was when they called a QB draw against Tennessee about 2 to 3 weeks ago-ish. And he ran, I think he ran up the middle or something like that. And he just ran right into someone. And ever since then, the flip just switched for Georgia. The offense is clicking now, especially Carson Beck. Carson Beck is playing out of his mind now. He's playing like that top prospect that we thought he was at the beginning of the season. This kid has been playing out of his mind, and I really have to emphasize this kid is one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and the fact that the media is painting him that he's not is absolutely ridiculous in my opinion. Just because of a couple bad games that he had. He had a couple bad game stretch, and honestly, that was on him because I felt like he wasn't playing his best. And I don't think he was caring when he was playing that bad. But now he's caring. Now he's putting effort into his stuff. And we see the quarterback prospect that he is, the talent. So he's been playing out of his mind. Then we're going to go into Georgia's running game. Now, Georgia's run game this year, it's been interesting. I know if Cameron were here, he'd tell you that Mike Bobo is very conservative with his calls. And I agree with him. They run the ball too much, but they're not good at it. That's the problem. That's the problem here. I don't have his carries up on the, but I don't have the carries up here on the screen. I mean, actually, no, you can see it on there. But what I have written down, because I did some scouting the past couple weeks, or not scouting, but just the overview of the game. And Nate Frazier's their leading rusher, and he doesn't even have I think he has like 600 yards, but on here I have his scrimmage yards total. I mean, we're not even at 700 yards from scrimmage. They really have a struggle running the football without Trevor. And even when, I mean, actually, we go back to the Texas game when Trevor Etienne was healthy. Trevor Etienne literally took over that game on offense because Carson Beck was playing so bad. Trevor Etienne took over on offense, and I think he had like 2 or 3 touchdowns. And with him being hurt, this just really destroys the Georgia balance on their offense, because this guy was probably one of the best, he's probably a top 10, top 15 running back in the country. And when you take him out of that offense, they just become one-dimensional. And don't get me wrong, Nate Frazier is a stud, but he's young. He's a young freshman running back that's just, and he's just not there. He's not all there yet, but he's still good. He's still good. He's been playing very well lately. Man, it's just, if they don't get the run game going today, man, it's going to be difficult. Especially because Texas has one of the best defenses in the country. They have one of the best defensive lines in the country. I don't know, man. It's going to be tough if they can't get the run game going. But hopefully Mike Bobo realizes today that it's all or nothing, man. Well, actually, it's not all or nothing, but we'll get into that later. But man, you got to throw the ball. Carson Beck, you got to spin the rock. You got to let Carson Beck spin the rock. You can't be conservative in games like this. So don't expect much from the Georgia running backs today. Because the O-line's not great in run blocking, as from what I've noticed, and 2, it's just they just gotta trust Carson Beck today. They gotta trust Carson Beck, and then we'll move into the wide receivers for Georgia today, and their leading receiver is Arian Smith. Now, Arian Smith is an interesting guy because you talk about Arian Smith, you look at his numbers. 42 catches, 709 yards, 4 touchdowns. This guy, he looks great on paper. But the past couple games, if you've been watching Georgia games, this guy just, man, there's something wrong with his hands right now. Right now, I don't know if it's a mental thing. I don't know what's going on. But dude, he's just got to get it together. He's just, I just don't get it. It's like the ball hit him in his hands and his hands turned frozen. Especially in that Georgia Tech game. The Georgia Tech game, he had 2 crucial drops that could have easily won them the game earlier than they did. Obviously, they ended up winning, so it didn't end up mattering. But, man, Carson Beck today... Now, I'm not saying they have bad skill positions. Their skill positions are good. Shout out Dylan Bell. Dylan Bell's a beast. Carson Beck today is going to have to improve the skill positions around him. He has to make the people around him better today. And I think they can do that. I think that is definitely a possibility as long as the offense and Mike Bobo, they trust him. They got to trust him. They got to trust him. They got to put their trust into Carson Beck because, man, if they don't, and they go back to this conservative thing, you're not going to win many big games like this. I don't see it. I don't know, man. So, I don't get it. Just give me 1 second, guys. 1 second. All right. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to talk about the Georgia tight ends for a little bit. Because the Georgia tight ends, they're very interesting. You got, I think his name is Lawson Lucky, and you got Oscar Delp. Great red zone guys. Great red zone guys. These guys have 7 touchdowns on the year. And if these guys get going, it's going to be tough for Texas to stop. It's going to be tough. Dude, these guys, you had Lawson Lucky, who coming into the year was very highly looked at as a great tight end, but his numbers haven't been great this year. But the guy who's kind of stepped it up lately is Oscar Delp, and we talked about him in the first episode of All Ball. This guy lately has been very good. I'm pretty sure he has like 4 touchdowns on the year. And I'm almost positive all of those have come within like the last 4 to 5 weeks. So he's hitting his stride at the right time, man. And it's just, the Georgia's got to get their tight ends going. They got to get the tight ends going because you've seen in the past, when you get the tight ends going, like Brock, now obviously these guys aren't Brock Bowers, but when Georgia has good tight ends, this offense, man, it's unstoppable. It's very, very hard to stop. So you got to get the tight ends going. Carson Beck's got to get the guys around him playing better. And if Bobo just lets everything go, they can really, really put some pressure on that Texas defense. Now let's talk about the Texas offense. I'm gonna highlight Quinn Ewers, Winsner, Gunnar Helm, their tight end, and Isaiah Bond. Quinn Ewers is an interesting topic here because people do think that Arch should be starting over him. There are some people that think that, and I have to disagree because as talented as Arch is, Arch may be the best quarterback in the country, top prospect, down the line. I mean, we're talking 2-3 years down the line. But now, this is Quinn Ewers' team. This is Quinn Ewers' team. Whether you like it or not, Quinn Ewers is experienced. This guy is very talented. I mean, the stats don't jump off the charts. But, he's been hurt a couple games this year. We're looking at 2,300 yards, 24 touchdowns, 7 picks. A 24-7 touchdown to interception ratio is fantastic, guys. Like, get this through your head. Why is Quinn Ewers, being, doubted? I don't get it, man. I don't personally understand it. This guy is very good. He's great at leading an offense, especially with Sark at the helm, man. Dude, Quinn Ewers is a very good quarterback, and we have to stop acting like he isn't. Guys. Arch Manning's great. He's a fantastic talent. He's going to be amazing. But this is Quinn Ewers' time now. Now, I want to talk about Quinn Wise. I think his full name is Quinn Travion or something like that. I could be wrong. I only wrote down Quinn because it's a very long name. Dude, this guy, I watched this guy last week. I watched the Texas A&M game. This kid is a monster. This kid is an absolute beast. He has over 1,000 yards from scrimmage this year, only 4 touchdowns, which is pretty crazy. But when you have all the other guys around the outside, like Isaiah Bond, Marcus Golden, Gunnar Helm, dude, it's hard to be a running back in this system because there's just so many opportunities around the offense that not everyone can get the football. But this guy last week, I'm pretty sure he almost ran for 200 yards. He put the game away last week. He 100% put the game away last week because that offensive line for Texas is unbelievable. Maybe the best offensive line in college football. And especially when you got this guy running behind him who is just he's a tank. He's not necessarily that fast. He's not necessarily that agile, but he will break tackles and just run through you. And they wear you down until you can't stop him anymore. And that's what happened last week against Texas A&M. And I don't know if that's going to happen this go around. So we're going to have to, the skill positions outside the running back, like the wide receivers and the tight ends for Texas, they got to get going, man. They got to get going today. It's very interesting. This is a very interesting matchup again because they have played each other. But will it be the same outcome as before? I just don't know. But if anything is like the first matchup, you're not going to get the run game going. You're not going to get the run game going if anything like the first matchup is happening. So if they want the run game to get going, they're going to have to get it early. They're going to have to get it early because they're not going to wear down Georgia. Georgia has the same talent of athletes as anybody in the country. They have the top tier athletes, man. It's going to be tough for Texas to just wear down Georgia again. Or not again. For the first time, because they definitely didn't do it last time. So then we go into the other skill positions, your tight ends and your wide receivers. And the 2 guys I want to highlight here are Gunnar Helm and Isaiah Bond. Now, Gunnar Helm, I'm not going to lie, I didn't know who this guy was until I did my research. But, man, leading receiver on Texas? This guy's unbelievable. 48 catches for 600 yards. Dude, that average catch is a crazy average catch, especially for a tight end. This is very, very crazy to me. I did not know the Texas tight end were like that. We got 600 yards and 5 touchdowns. I was very unaware of the tight ends over at Texas. Well, apparently they're unbelievable. Again, I can't really go too much in depth with this because I haven't really watched him this year. I haven't been paying attention to him this year. But those are amazing stats, and if they can get a tight end going on top of your wide receivers, dude, I mean, this offense is so dynamic now. Because especially when we're going to the next guy, Isaiah Bond, dude. Because like if you focus your attention on Marcus Golden, Isaiah Bond, and stuff like that, someone's going to be open, and if Gunnar Helm can take advantage of that, I mean, Jesus, like apparently he can, because 600 yards, man, this is really good for him. And then we'll talk about, this is the guy I want to talk about the most, is Isaiah Bond, because this guy is ungodly quick. This guy's ungodly quick. Man, you got to keep your eyes on him at all times. You got to keep your eyes on him at all times, man, because you look at this, 32 catches, 510 yards, 5 touchdowns, but then you got to add almost 100 yards rushing and another touchdown. So they run jet sweeps for this guy. They run screens for this guy. They get him, when they get him the ball, he's going to make a play. He's going to make a play. Like you look at the average catch yardage there, dude, that's crazy. That is crazy. 32 catches for 510 yards. I mean, he's going for over 12, 13 yards a catch all the time, man. So you got to keep your eyes on him at all times, or he can hurt you. He can hurt you. And Georgia, I'm pretty sure stopped them pretty well last time they played. But man, if they don't bottle him up, he can destroy your offense in a flash, an absolute flash, man. And now we're going to talk about their defenses as a whole. And the one thing I need to highlight is the Georgia defense. The Georgia defense this year, outside of the Tennessee game and the Texas game, have been absolutely trash for Georgia standards. Let me just emphasize that, because they're still a great defense. But for Georgia standards, we're looking at 22 points per game and 350 yards given up a game. What are we talking about, ladies and gentlemen? This is Georgia. This is Georgia, guys. What are we doing? Why in the world is Georgia giving up 3 scores a game? This should never happen. Especially with Kirby Smart at the helm, guys. This is unreal. I don't understand why this is happening this year. I wish Cameron was here to explain this to me. I think it's their defensive coordinator, from what he's told me in the past. He wants both coordinators fired this offseason. And honestly, looking at these stats, man, he might be right. This is, I've never seen Georgia this poor on defense for their standards. Again, I gotta emphasize that, for their standards, because we'll go into some other games today, and you'll see they're about on par with some other teams. But like, this is Georgia. They're supposed to be a top 5 or the top defense every single year, and they're just not this year. And I don't know why. But then you got to bring up the Texas defense, because the Texas defense, man. Now, you could say all you want that they play nobody. They've dodged every good team in the SEC other than Georgia. Guys, they don't make their schedule. They don't make the SEC schedule. It's not their fault. They do not make their conference schedule. And guess what? They're giving up 11.7 points per game and under 250 yards per game. Even though they're not playing great teams, they're playing like they're not playing great teams. That's the thing. They're playing like they are playing like they are the dominant team. Every game, almost every game. This Texas defense is fast. This Texas defense is strong. And if Georgia messes around for too long, they're going to get you, man. They are going to get you. If they get you off the field fast, then you give Quinn Ewers the ball. And it's going to be tough. So when I look at this, we're looking at a Vegas, at least this is when I wrote it down. I don't know if it's the same. Let me see here. Oh, okay, so it's only moved half a point at the moment. But we're looking at -3 for Texas. Honestly, when I look at a prediction here, I don't disagree with it, but it's hard for me to say Texas can go out and win this one, especially after the last time they played. Because you got to look at head-to-head matchups when you're looking at a game like this. And if they've played already, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for Texas. If I had to make a prediction for today, I think this is going to be a relatively low score, not like super low scoring, but we're talking about in the 20s for me today. For today, I would have to say Georgia 28, Texas 24. And then I think Georgia would get the 2 seed, depending on what happens in the Big Ten championship game. Actually, I think no matter what happens in the Big Ten championship game today, Georgia would get the 2 seed if they win. So I'm going to go with Georgia today, in my opinion. All right, the next game I want to talk about is Penn State versus Oregon. Now, this is obviously a very, very, very big game for me today. This nobody believes in Penn State, and I'm gonna keep it honest. I honestly don't think we're gonna win. I don't think we're gonna win, and it's tough for me to look at the past and say, "Oh, we're just gonna go in and we're gonna win today." It's tough for me to say that. You know what I'm saying? Like when you look at these two teams, they actually don't look that much different. Like Drew Aller, 2,600 yards passing, 18 touchdowns, 5 picks. But you got to add 5 rushing touchdowns in there. And then you look at Dylan Gabriel, who, Heisman candidate, ladies and gentlemen, who stats are better. His stats are way better than Drew Aller's are this year. But also, Dylan Gabriel's more in a pass-heavy offense than Drew is. We're looking at 3,200 yards, 24 touchdowns, 6 picks. But you got to add 7 rushing touchdowns because this guy, oh my goodness, this guy is a very, very capable dual-threat quarterback, in my opinion. And not even in my opinion. He just is. He's very quick on the ground. This guy he's been in college for a long time. Pretty sure he's second or first in all-time passing touchdowns in college football history. Dylan Gabriel's an absolute monster, ladies and gentlemen. And it's just, I don't know. It's tough for me to look at this game and say, like, Penn State can win. Because until they prove me otherwise, I can't say that Penn State can win this game. But we'll go into a little bit more analysis here. We're looking at the two-headed monster in the backfield. We're talking about Nick Singleton, and we're talking about Kaytron Allen. Now, Nick Singleton, more receiving guy this year than I think Penn State fans would like to see. Because he has been hurt. He has been hurt. We're talking over 1,000 yard scrimmage, 11 touchdowns. The 11 touchdowns is unreal. That's very good. That's very good. We're almost looking at a touchdown per game here. But his rushing yards this year, man. Let me scroll down for you guys. Man, it's hard to. Now his average yards per carry is very good, but man, we're not even at 750 yards, and we're in champ week. Like, I don't know. It's very weird to me looking at this year, and like Singleton is, especially with the start of the year that he had. Man, he's had a slow get off after that. Like it's been rough for him. Then we're gonna go into Kaytron Allen. Kaytron Allen is way more of a bully back. We're looking at 802 yards from scrimmage and 7 touchdowns. Now, this kid, they call him Fat Man, and for good reason. This guy will try to run you over. He's not that big. You actually look at him, he's not that big. He's not that big of a running back. But his style of run is he just either runs over you or he breaks tackles, and he's a very efficient runner. And he just knows how to run the football. That's all he does. He just runs. He doesn't do anything flashy. He just tries to get yards. That's all he does. And this kid, and I feel like he's overlooked at because of Nick Singleton. And I mean, it's not like crazy to say that because, you know, Nick Singleton, he's lightning quick. He's probably close to as powerful as Kaytron Allen is. And he's just that much faster. But Kaytron Allen, there were times this year where Nick Singleton was hurt and they just had to rely on Kaytron Allen to take the bulk of the carries. And man, he did well with them. He did very well with them. I think he should definitely not be overlooked. This kid is very good. He's very talented. He knows how to run the football. Not that much of a receiving back. He has only one reception touchdown this year, I believe, and that was in the first game. But man, this two-headed monster, if Penn State can get this two-headed monster going in the backfield, they have a chance. They have an absolute chance of winning this game. But man, in these big games, they don't do that. They can't ever get the run game going, and that's what really ends up hurting them in the long run. Man, it's just tough. It's tough for them. They got to get the run game going today. Now, the next guy we're going to talk about, in my opinion, this kid is the best tight end in the country. This kid should be invited to New York for the Heisman ceremony. And he is probably I would say he is the most valuable offensive player in the country besides Ashton Jeanty. Because without Jeanty, Boise State would not be where they are today. But, and without Tyler Warren this year, Penn State's offense would not be what it is. You're looking at 81 catches, 978 yards receiving, and 11 total touchdowns. We're talking about reception touchdowns. We're talking about rushing touchdowns. We're even talking about a passing touchdown in there too. Yes, this guy throws the ball, as we talked about in the first episode when I brought him up. If Penn State wants to win this football game, they have to get the run game going, and they cannot beat around the bushes. You have to give this guy the football. You absolutely have got to give this guy the football. He had, against Ohio State, the other big game this year that they had, he had 94 yards from scrimmage. This guy had 7 touches. That can't happen. This guy needs at least 10 plus touches a game. Like at minimum, whether it's him lining up at quarterback, whether it's him lining up as a slot receiver, whether he's in the tight end position, you got to get him the football if you want to win football games. He's the best tight end in the country for a reason. Like, just give him the football. He's the best player on your team. And there was at times this year where like their offense wouldn't get going until they gave him the football. Just don't think about it, guys. You give Tyler Warren the football. I mean, I can sit here and just repeat it over and over again, but they didn't do that in Ohio State, and it showed. It absolutely showed. Now, we're going to go to the skill positions outside the quarterback. On the Oregon side, we're looking at Jordan James, Tez Johnson, Evan Stewart. Tez Johnson and Evan Stewart are probably one of, if not the best wide receiver duo in the country. The only wide receiver duo that might be better than them, in my opinion, is probably Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka, but it's close. Tez Johnson, 67 catches, 685 yards, 9 touchdowns. Now, I was shocked. When I saw his stats because he didn't really take a carry this year, and I thought Tez Johnson was one of those guys, one of those versatile receivers that could do a lot. I thought that's what he was. I was very shocked when I saw that Tez Johnson wasn't a versatile receiver. But I haven't watched a ton of Oregon games this year, but the one that I did watch was the Ohio State game. And man, Tez Johnson, Evan Stewart. Oh yes, Evan Stewart also 48 receptions, 613 yards, 5 touchdowns. I think Evan Stewart has been hurt this year. I could be wrong. I honestly don't really know, but based off of his catches, I would assume that he is. Now, again, there's also a lot of playmakers in this offense, so it's hard to get everyone the ball. But Evan Stewart, when they played Ohio State, absolutely torched them. Absolutely. And he's one of the best. He's up there with one of the best receivers in the country. Not everyone has an Evan Stewart. Just like not everyone has a Tyler Warren. And same with Tez Johnson. Tez Johnson, I'm pretty sure he's been there for a good amount of years at Oregon. Man, these two guys, you got to contain them, because if you let them get behind your defense, they will make you pay. They will 100% make you pay, especially with Dylan Gabriel at quarterback, man. This guy has one of the best deep balls in the country. And if you let these guys get into open field, it's going to be a rough day for you. It's going to be a rough day for you. Yeah, so hopefully Penn State, they have to play conservative to contain these guys, but not too conservative. You can't play too conservative, or then this leads me into their running back because this guy, Jordan James, is a monster. We're looking at 1,348 scrimmage yards and 13 touchdowns. Now, I said Oregon's not even a pass. They're not even a run-first offense, I don't think. And this guy has this many yards? Guys, what are we doing here, man? This is crazy. This offense is so dynamic. Probably, I don't even know what offense would be better than this in the country, man. If you have that many rushing yards and you also have that many passing yards, it's so hard to stop this offense. Jordan James, absolute monster. I don't know how, I forget what he did throughout the season. I've looked at his box scores and man, they jump out at you. You look at this and you're like, who is this guy? But then you look at those stats and you're like, oh my goodness, this guy has 120, 130 rushing yards. And you're like, oh my God, Oregon has a good running back on top of everyone else that they have. Oh my goodness, this is like almost impossible to stop. So if Oregon gets that run game going against Penn State, man, I'm not going to lie. It's going to be almost impossible to stop. It's going to be almost impossible to stop on defense. But I say that as if Penn State doesn't have one of the best defenses in the country. We're talking about a defense that has the Defensive Player of the Year in the Big Ten, Abdul Carter. We're talking about a defense that has Tom Allen, who most people didn't think of as a great coordinator at the beginning of the year, but he's proved himself lately. He has 100% proved himself lately. He's one of the best coordinators in the country this year. We are looking at a defense that he has led to 14 points per game and 266 yards allowed per game. Man, hold on now. We can't overlook this defense, right? Right? I see everyone that's saying that Oregon is just going to absolutely destroy Penn State, but you got to look at the defense. You got to look at Penn State's defense, in my opinion. This is the matchup of the game, is the Oregon offense versus the Penn State defense. Because, man, if you let their defensive line penetrate, like inside, or if you let Abdul Carter come off the edge, it's going to be a long day for you. So hopefully that Oregon front can hold up and pass block and run block, or the defensive line is going to make you pay. Now, I will say one weakness this year that I have seen on a Penn State is they play a lot of man coverage. Tom Allen plays a lot of man coverage, and he plays a lot of soft man coverage. I'm almost positive, because a lot of times quick passes like screens and slant routes have killed Penn State this year, and he doesn't really adjust that much. He knows what he wants to do, and he doesn't really change it that much in the first half. But in the second half this year, he has proven that he knows when his defense has to get it done. Especially when it comes to the pressure, because the pressure is not there in the first half a lot. But man, in that second half this year, dude, they finally send pressure and they get to the quarterback. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's tough. It's tough to overlook this defense, man. And I doubt Oregon is. Dan Lanning is a great coach, but the media has got to stop overlooking this Penn State defense, because they are one of the best in the country. They're a top 5 defense in the country. And man, if you take them lightly, they'll make you pay. But you know who else will make you pay is probably the fastest defense in the country, being the Oregon defense. We're looking at 16.4 points per game and 290 yards allowed per game. Yeah, this defense is fast. This defense is I don't know how strong they are as much, but they proved themselves. They've proved themselves over the past couple over the season. I think they pitched a shutout against Purdue. They might have pitched a shutout against Purdue. I'm not 100%, but I kind of remember that game. I was thinking like, oh, you're going to a night game in Purdue, you never know. But then they just, off of the Ohio State week, they just, like, it was nothing. Which, obviously, now you look at it, Purdue's probably one of, if not the worst, they are probably the worst Power 4 school in the country when it comes to football. But you still can't take them lightly in West Lafayette over there. But back to the Oregon defense. The Oregon defense is fast, probably the fastest defense in the country. They proved themselves throughout the year. You go back to the stats. Man, it's like The key matchup when you're looking at Penn State's offense versus Oregon's defense is the wide receivers for Penn State, because they have not been getting open. It sounds like we're just repeating the same thing every single year. Get a wide receiver that can get open. And they kind of have one this year. His name is Harrison Wallace. And if he can win his one-on-one matchups and we can get the ball to him and Tyler Warren and then get the run game going, then we got a possibility against this Oregon defense. But if you cannot do that, they will beat you to every spot on the field, man. I'm telling you, they fly, whether it's Ohio State, whether it's a bad team like Purdue or UCLA. Man, this team is all over the place on defense, and you gotta win your matchups, or they will just lock you up. They won't let you get open, man. You can't get open, because even if you get by them, they got the speed to make up lost ground on you. So when I look at this game, in my opinion, we're looking at 3.5. I don't know if the line is. It looks like the line is about the same here. 3.5. Or for Oregon, I honestly, until Penn State proves me wrong, Oregon's gonna win this game 30-21. As much as I want to be a Penn State homer here, man, it's just, I mean, ESPN analytics, they like us. They like us. But man, it's just, these teams are very evenly matched, so it could be a closer game than what I'm thinking. Man, it's just yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, Oregon, until Penn State, switches it up, it's gonna be Oregon today. You know what I'm saying? Until Penn State gets right, it's gonna be. Sorry for reminiscing, but you know what's going on here. All right, we will move into Clemson versus SMU, because this game is very interesting, especially for play. This is probably the game with the most playoff implications, because whoever wins this game is going to be in the CFP, hands down. But there's also another outcome where SMU loses and gets in, but we'll talk about that later. When I look at this game, it's tough. Clemson's a very weird team, in my opinion, because they have destroyed bad teams this year. But when you look at their good games the good teams that they played, being South Carolina, Georgia, I forget who their third loss is. Let me know in the comments, because I forget who their third loss is. But I don't think it was to that bad of a team. When I look at this game, I honestly have not watched these teams too much this year. But what I do know is SMU has one of the best run games in the country. And that's a big advantage for anybody, because running the football, it works. If you can run the football, you're going to have a good chance of winning the game. And when you look at a guy like Brashard Smith, 1,426 yards from scrimmage and 17 touchdowns, man, you can't let a guy like that get going, or he's just going to destroy you. He's just going to absolutely cook you, man. It's just... And the Clemson defense this year is good, but they're not fantastic. So you can't let SMU get going on the ground, or they will make you pay. And then I look at their quarterback, probably one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the country, Kevin Jennings, with 2,700 yards passing, 19 touchdowns, 7 picks. But, ladies and gentlemen, this is a dual-threat quarterback, a dangerous dual-threat quarterback, being 344 yards on the ground, and you add 4 touchdowns, which then just makes your run game that much more dangerous when you have a great running back like that, and then you also have a great quarterback like that can run the football. Man, this game is going to be interesting. If SMU can run the football, it's just going to be a long day for Clemson. And honestly, and Vegas agrees here with being 2.5. It's going to be a close game, but I would not be surprised if SMU ran away with this game if they got going. But then let's move in the Clemson offense here. We're gonna talk about Cade Klubnik. This is a big topic. Cade Klubnik is one of the top quarterbacks in the country with Drew Aller. He was the Drew Aller year coming out of high school. People thought this is the guy. This is the next guy after Trevor Lawrence. Well, okay, my bad. The next guy after Trevor Lawrence was supposed to be DJ Uiagalelei, but that didn't work out. So Cade Klubnik was supposed to come in and absolutely dominate, and he kind of has done that this year. This guy is having a sneaky, amazing season. We're looking at over 3,000 passing yards, almost 30 touchdowns, and only 5 picks. But again, ladies and gentlemen, we have another dual threat quarterback in this matchup. We're looking at 430 yards rushing and 7 touchdowns. 7 touchdowns, ladies and gentlemen. This is unreal. I did not realize that Cade Klubnik was this amazing of a runner coming into the season. After a couple games, obviously, I've kind of figured it out at this point, especially with that last second touchdown run against Pitt. Pitt, you suck. All right, that's besides the point, though. But if Cade Klubnik goes out there, he can spin the rock. If those QB draws start lining up and start working, they could just seal this thing. They just could take over. You never know. But coming off of last week against South Carolina, man, Clemson did not look great. And they haven't looked great in big games this year. So it's very hard for me to look at this and say Clemson's gonna end up winning this. It's tough. But we'll go into predictions a little bit. We gotta talk about their running back, Maffa. This guy has over 1,100 yards from scrimmage and 8 touchdowns. This guy, I've watched a couple Clemson games this year. If this guy gets going, it's gonna be tough to stop, because if you get a running back going, like I said earlier with Jennings and Smith, if you get a running back going and you get a quarterback going on the run, it's gonna be tough to stop. Those play action, those read options, man. You just pull it whenever you want. You know what I'm saying? Play actions, read options, everything. It's tough. It's tough to stop. But Maffa is a great running back. I'm pretty sure he's more of a bully back, but I think he's decent. He's pretty fast as well. Just this guy is very good. This guy is very good this year. SMU cannot let him get going, because then that'll open up the pass game for Clemson. Then we'll move into the wide receiver, Antonio Williams. Not familiar with many skill positions on Clemson. But 66 receptions, 788 yards, 10 touchdowns. So this guy is very obviously Cade Klubnik's number one target. 10 touchdowns. That's a lot for a receiver, man. That'll be an interesting matchup, because the SMU defense this year has been very, very good. So I think their secondary is one of the better parts of that defense too. So those matchups being the receivers versus the corners today, it's gonna be a big matchup for Clemson and SMU. And we'll talk about the defenses right now. Being Clemson's defense at 22.3 points per game, SMU's defense at 20.9 points per game, which, I mean, who would have thought that? You know, I know you don't. I know you didn't think that. I mean, nobody thought that SMU was going to be this good first year in the ACC. And then the yardage is about equal. So these defenses are very evenly matched. The offenses, I would say, are very evenly matched. But if Kevin Jennings and Brashad Smith, man, if you let them get going, it's going to be wraps. And we're looking at 2.5 spread, like I said earlier. Give me SMU in this matchup. Now, who I want to win is Clemson, so it's going to be tougher for Bama to get into the playoff, because I don't care what you say, Bama still shouldn't be in the playoff. But I think at the end of the day, you got to take the better team, and I think it's going to be SMU, and I think SMU will win 34-23. And honestly, this will be a rough loss for Clemson, and we'll be having question marks going into next season, because, man, 4 losses. That's, I don't think people really expected Clemson to have 4 losses this year. But here we are. All right. Now, we are going to go into a segment, ladies and gentlemen. And obviously, you can kind of figure out what we're talking about here. We know what's happening tomorrow. The final rankings are coming out tomorrow. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through all the rankings that were today, or were this past week. So what I want to talk about is I want to talk about the teams that are in the playoff no matter what happens. Absolutely, no matter what happens today, what happens tomorrow. Actually, nothing's happening tomorrow, but whatever happens today, those teams will be locks for the playoffs. The first team, Oregon. Obviously, only undefeated FBS team. They're a lock for the playoffs. Texas is a lock for the playoff. SMU is not a lock for the playoff, but we'll talk about that later. Boise State, with the win yesterday against UNLV in the Mountain West Championship, they are a lock. Penn State is a lock. Notre Dame is a lock, especially because they don't have to play. Ohio State is a lock. Tennessee is a lock. And Georgia is a lock. And this is where we're starting to get into a gray area, because now we're talking about the bubble. Who would have thought we'd be talking about a bubble in college football being a 4-team playoff before, but now we're talking about a bubble like it's March Madness, ladies and gentlemen. This is crazy stuff. Now, when we talk about the bubble, we're looking at SMU, we are looking at Alabama, and who's the 10s? Oh, Indiana. But wait, no, that's another team that's an absolute lock. I apologize that I forgot. Is Indiana. Indiana is an absolute lock. So there's only 2 teams right now that are on the bubble, and it sucks that they're on the bubble because SMU should be in the playoff no matter what happens. But guess what? There is a possibility that SMU with a loss today could fall behind Alabama, ladies and gentlemen. So the outcome, that is the only outcome that will end up mattering for the committee to make a decision, is if Clemson beats SMU, because then we got some question marks. So if Clemson beats SMU, where does SMU fall? Right? Where does SMU fall, and where does Alabama go? Does Alabama stay above? Does Alabama jump above SMU, or does SMU fall behind Alabama, or does SMU just stay in front? They've played well enough. What does the committee think of SMU? And here's my opinion. Alabama this year has 3 losses. Regular season. SMU has 1. You can talk about strength of schedule all you want, but 2 of Alabama's losses, ladies and gentlemen, are to Oklahoma and Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, we're talking about a team that lost to Georgia State. Now, I'm not shitting on Vanderbilt. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer on Vanderbilt. Diego Pavia, or however you say his last name, is an amazing quarterback, and there's a bright future for Vanderbilt right now. But at the end of the day, this is a 6-6 team. And Bama, you can't lose to a 6-6 team. And guess what? You lost to 2 6-6 teams, being Oklahoma. And you lost to Oklahoma by 3 scores. Yes. So, I don't even know why this is a discussion. But if you were to strip that A off the jersey of Alabama, this wouldn't even be a conversation. This team wouldn't even be in remotely close. Now, has Alabama earned that over the past couple of years? Yes, but that's because Nick Saban was their head coach. And guess what? Nick Saban's not the head coach anymore. So relax. Kalen DeBoer is a fantastic head coach, but he's not Nick Saban. So the reason I bring this up, being Alabama shouldn't be in, well, I mean, obviously it's a big topic, but the reason I really want to bring this up, because if you look at every other team in the country, here's the thing, you got to think about this like a scenario, because what if, right, say Penn State this year, and I'm just using them as an example, say if they played, we'll try to match Alabama's schedule a little bit here. Say if Penn State played Oregon and Ohio State on their schedule this year, because Bama played Tennessee and Georgia. Here's the thing. If Penn State beat Ohio State, but they lost to Georgia, but then they drop a game to Minnesota, and they drop a game to, let's say, USC. And one of those games, Penn State lost by 3 scores. Where would you guys have Penn State? Where would the committee have Penn State? Penn State wouldn't even be sniffing the playoffs. And this is why I bring this up here. SEC bias is ridiculous, ladies and gentlemen. And honestly, this year, we talked about it before. We thought there wasn't much SEC bias. And actually, let me retract. There really isn't. There is Bama bias this year. That is what it is. It's Bama bias. So remember, you got to look at this like a scenario. You got to play this scenario out for other teams, not just Bama, because Bama has some issues. Now, when Bama is at their best, can they be a great team? Can they probably beat a lot of teams in the country? Yes, but they haven't shown that this year. That is the problem. And I don't know why we are rewarding a team that, it's like, why should we even play a regular season? Why should we even play a conference championship? And that's another thing. If SMU loses and they fall out of playoff, why are there conference championships? Why? Why are there conference championships? Because if it's just going to hurt you for playing an extra game over people, why do they exist? Why do they exist? So hopefully SMU wins for their sakes, because, man, I cannot begin to describe the amount of anger that will build up as a football fan if you punish a team for playing an extra game. Just because they play an extra game, they better not fall if they lose to Clemson. That's just what I'm saying. You cannot punish a team for playing an extra game and reward a team for not making their conference championship. That can't happen. Man, like, I'm sorry I'm going on long about this, but this is a big topic right now. This is huge, because, man, at the end of the day, SMU deserves to be in the playoff, win or loss. And Alabama honestly doesn't. So, obviously, you know my opinion now. And there's one thing I want to bring up, because I don't know if you guys follow the TikTok. Me and Cameron both posted TikToks today, about 15 to 20 minutes after the rankings came out this week. And I want to talk about this because we both had the very similar opinions about Alabama. I was very more vocal about it than he was. He was more, kind of like neutral, or not neutral, but he was kind of more mellow about it. But I was like shaking the camera and stuff. And I just want to talk about this because Bama fans, they were just in the comments. They were like, "Oh, cry baby cries," and shit like that. Guys, I just want to emphasize this. You guys do not deserve to be in the playoff. And guess what? I don't really care about your opinions. I don't care about your opinions, Bama fans, because you guys are the most spoiled fan base in the country, being Nick Saban has gifted you all of these national championships, and now you don't know how to act. Because just because there's a 12-team playoff, you don't know how to act, and you act like you should absolutely deserve to be in there. Well, guess what? You don't deserve to be in there this year. And I can rant about this I can go on and on and on about this. I could go on for hours. But guess what? Bama does not deserve to be in the playoff. I don't care what Bama fans say. I don't care what the media has to say. If SMU loses, and they fall out of the playoff, it's an outrage. Absolute outrage. Okay, now I think for today, we wanted to try to make a shorter episode anyways. So, but we got to get this one out quickly today. So, we're recording this the day of. So when you guys see the video today, I recorded it like 30 to 45 minutes before I posted it. It is 12:12 in the afternoon on Conference Championship. We tried to get this out. We tried to record earlier, but like I said, Cameron has had a weird week where he just hasn't been able to. He's had stuff come up, and it hasn't worked out. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it happens. But so yeah, hopefully I can edit this very fastly and get this out today. But if I got nothing else to talk about today, go Go State. You see the sweatshirt. We're repping Go State. I know Cameron is at home today. He's definitely repping the Bulldogs. Obviously, big Georgia fan, but let's go Georgia. Let's go Penn State. Let's go SMU. And Bama, I hate you. All right, I'll leave you guys with that. And if you enjoyed, make sure to click subscribe. Make sure to hit the like button. Tell your friends about us. If recommend us to everyone if you like our content. I know this isn't necessarily the outcome we wanted today, but we got to get these bangers. We got to get these opinions out to you guys. So as always, enjoy football today. Everyone enjoy your football today. It's the last week for a while, for at least 2 to 3 weeks, until the college playoff starts on the 20th, I believe. So, as always, ladies and gentlemen, have a great day. Enjoy your football, and we will see you guys hopefully with Cameron, but we will see you guys in the next episode. See ya.